Bismillah, alhamdulillah, wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulillah. So we were discussing verses number 40 to 43 in Surah Al-Baqarah, which start with the verse أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم يا بني إسرائيل اذكروا نعمتي التي أنعمت عليكم وأوفوا بعهدي أوفي بعهدكم وإياي فارهبون وآمنوا بما أنزلت مصدقا لما معكم ولا تكونوا أول كافر به ولا تشتروا بآياتي ثمنا قليلا وإياي فاتقون ولا تلبسوا الحق بالباطل وتكتموا الحق وأنتم تعلمون وأقيموا الصلاة وآتوا الزكاة واركعوا مع الراكعين. Just a few more comments on these verses in addition to what we said yesterday. As we see, the first verse was concluded with وَإِيَّايَ فَارْهَبُونَ, and the following one was concluded with وَإِيَّايَ فَاتَّقُونَ. So how is it different? Like the word, when you put إِيَّايَ first and then إِرْهَبُونَ, and then you put إِيَّايَ and then you put إِتَّقُونَ, what kind of additional meaning does this give? It could have said إِرْهَبُونِ أو إِتَّقُونِ. So when you put إِيَّايَ, which means myself, I have to fear. Myself, you have to regard or keep your duty towards. The additional meaning is that I'm the only one deserving to be feared. I'm the only one deserving to be obeyed. Just like we say in the Fatiha, إِيَّاكَ نَعْبُدُ وَإِيَّاكَ نَسْتَعِينُ. You could have said, if it came in the wording of نَسْتَعِينُكَ وَنَعْبُدُكَ, would have been a little bit different. نَسْتَعِينُكَ means we seek help from you. But it does not exclude you seeking help from someone else as well. If you say نَعْبُدُكَ, it means we worship you, but it does not exclude you worshiping someone else as well. You follow? But when you say إِيَّاكَ نَعْبُدُ, means we seek help only from you. إِيَّاكَ نَسْتَعِينُ, إِيَّاكَ نَعْبُدُ, we worship only you. وَإِيَّاكَ نَسْتَعِينُ, we seek help only from you. It's exclusive here, okay? So this is the wisdom behind putting the word إِيَّايَ فَارْهَبُونَ, then إِيَّايَ فَاتَّقُونَ. The word إِرْهَبُونَ, what does it mean? To fear, right? Rahba means to fear, to tremble or to fear. And then the word إِتَّقُونَ, how is it إِتَّقُونَ different from إِرْهَبُونَ? Rahba means to fear. إِتَّقُونَ, it has an additional meaning. What's the additional point here? What's the additional point in taqwa? Taqwa means to, somebody said something? Also taqwa means to protect oneself. You know, yattaqi means, yattaqi, ittaqun nar means protect yourself from the fire of hell. Protection, it has the meaning of protection. So protect yourself from me. Ittaqun, protect yourself from my wrath. Protect yourself from my punishment. You follow? So irhabun refers to the internal feeling. Ittaqun has an additional meaning. It has the meaning of fear, but it has the additional meaning of taking physical action to translate this fear into action, meaning to follow Allah's commandments and avoid His prohibitions. You follow? You understand the meaning now? Irhabun, and then the following ittaqun. So it has an additional meaning. And as I mentioned yesterday, the first verse reminds them of Allah's blessings, which would motivate them to want to believe in Allah and obey Allah. The following verse, so because it's اذكروا نعمتي, the first verse, the following verse calls them to the next step, which is to believe in Allah. So first you remember Allah's blessing, then you do what is proper, to believe in Allah and to obey Him. So believe in Allah comes in the following verse, and to abstain from falsehood, which comes in the next verse, which is وَلَا تَلْبِسُوا الْحَقَّ بِالْبَاطِلِ وَتَكْتُمُوا الْحَقَّ وَأَنْتُمْ تَعْلَمُونَ. And then the following verse takes it to a further step, which is to actually perform the physical acts of obedience to Allah. وَأَقِيمُوا الصَّلَاةِ, perfect, establish the prayer. وَآتُوا الزَّكَاةِ وَارْكَعُوا مَعَ الرَّاكِعِينَ. I mentioned yesterday, ارْكَعُوا مَعَ الرَّاكِعِينَ. It alludes to the fact that they have distorted their salah and they have taken away the ruku' and sujood. But also اركعوا مع الراكعين could mean that obey me amongst those who obey me, because the ruku' could also be a symbol of obedience in general. And that you can see in the verse such as الذين يقيمون الصلاة ويؤتون الزكاة وهم راكعون in Surah An-Nur. Allah says يقيمون الصلاة ويؤتون الزكاة وهم راكعون, means while they are making ruku', but you don't give the zakah while you're making ruku', right? Correct? So here يقيمون الصلاة ويؤتون الزكاة وهم راكعون means they are humble to Allah. They are obedient to Allah. You follow? So أقيموا الصلاة, it is the first commandment to establish connection with Allah. آتوا الزكاة, it is the second most important command. That's why it's إقامة الصلاة and إيتاء الزكاة always come together, huh? يقيمون الصلاة ومما رزقناهم ينفقون. Those two come together because one of them is your duty towards the Creator. The second one is your duty towards Allah's creation, correct? And both are obedience to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. وَارْكَعُوا مَعَ الرَّاكِعِينَ means to generally obey Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in everything else. Means because the religion is not only salah and zakah, there's many other things. وَارْكَعُوا مَعَ الرَّاكِعِينَ means to fulfill Allah's commandments in general. To fulfill Allah's commandments in general. So we've gone for 6 minutes. I don't want to go too long because it's Isha now is very late. Should we switch the class to Maghrib time, or how does it go? Huh? But still, Maghrib, I noticed Maghrib, not too many people attend Maghrib. Actually more than double people, maybe triple the number. Still, inshallah, we'll always make the class less than 10 minutes. The other point I wanted to talk about, we've just gone now for 7 minutes, two more minutes or 3 minutes, and we'll stop. The other point, which is very, very important in these verses, is the meaning of al-haqq. وَلَا تَلْبِسُوا الْحَقَّ بِالْبَاطِلِ وَتَكْتُمُوا الْحَقَّ وَأَنْتُمْ تَعْلَمُونَ. The meaning of haqq and batil, because those concepts, the word haqq and batil, are repeated so much in the Quran. I brought this book because it discusses this subject, the haqq and batil, in more detail. But generally speaking, inshallah, we'll go to this book maybe in next class a little bit, read from it a little bit. The word haqq means the fact, the something that is established, something that conforms with reality. While batil means falsehood, something that is false and untrue, is not established in reality. So this is the meaning of haqq and batil. So you have to know that in general, in this life, things are mixed. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created this life in a very complex and overlapping, the haqq and batil overlap in almost everything that we deal with in this life. Almost every action you will see some haqq and some batil, and you have to weigh, is there more haqq here or what is, and that is why the fiqh, the true understanding of religion is not just by knowing the pure haqq and the pure batil, but to know which has the greater good compared to the lesser good, which has the greater evil compared to the lesser evil, and balance between things. Even in the hadith you see that the Messenger ﷺ says, "In al-halal bayn wal-halalu bayn wal-haramu bayn wa baynahuma umur mushtabihat la ya'lamuhunna kathirun min an-nas." There's some things that are clearly halal, there's no doubt about it. Some things that are clearly haram, no doubt about them. But between them there's a gray area where halal mixes with haram, and that is where people who want to deviate or lead others astray, they work on that gray area, or they work on things that cannot be discerned. Is it haqq or is it batil? Sorry? Doubtful, exactly. And that's an example of this. For instance, the word ruh, for instance. The word ruh in the Quran is, and that's very important, we'll mention it because the word ruh in the Quran has many meanings. Ruh could mean revelation. وَكَذَلِكَ أَوْحَيْنَا إِلَيْكَ رُوحًا مِّنْ أَمْرِنَا. أَوْحَيْنَا إِلَيْكَ رُوحًا مِّنْ أَمْرِنَا. The revelation is called ruh. Jibreel is called ruh, for instance. تَنَزَّلُ مَلَائِكَةُ وَالْرُوحُ فِيهَا. Angels in general could be called ruh. يَوْمَ يَقُومُ الرُّوحُ وَالْمَلَائِكَةُ. Ruh could mean ruh, the spirit, the soul, right? وَنَفَخْتُ فِيهِ مِنْ رُوحِي, right? ويسألونك عن الروح قل الروح من أمر ربي وما أوتيتم من علم إلا قليلا. So the word ruh, for instance, is a term that can have multiple meanings, and people who want to go astray, they come to these doubtful or mixed meanings, and they use them in inappropriate ways. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said about the Quran, هو الذي أنزل عليك الكتاب منه آيات محكمات هن أم الكتاب. There are some verses in the Quran, محكمات, can only have one clear meaning. وأخر متشابهات. Some other verses can have more than one meaning. فأما الذين في قلوبهم زيغ فيتبعون ما تشابه منه. People who want to go astray and lead others astray, they follow these doubtful verses. They bring verses that can have multiple meanings, and they take you to the unintended meaning, while you should always understand those verses in light of the muhkamat, the established facts in the Quran, the established clear-cut verses in the Quran. And that is why, even the Christians, they went astray with regards to Isa ibn Maryam, because Allah says, إنما المسيح عيسى ابن مريم رسول الله وكلمته ألقاها إلى مريم وروح منه. So the word kalima as well, kalima and ruh, kalima can have multiple meanings, and ruh. So when they came to this, for instance, they said, Allah says ruh minhu, then he is a God, because he says ruh minhu, which means a spirit taken from God, then he is a God. You follow? But of course, it's totally false, because we will discuss this inshallah in the next class, because Allah said about the same thing about Adam alayhi salam, فإذا سويته ونفخت فيه من روحي. So if why do you apply it to Isa alayhi salam, and then we all agree that Adam is a regular human being, and Allah says وَنَفَخْتُ فِيهِ مِنْ رُوحِي, I breathed in him or blew in him my ruh. So here ruh means the spirit, the soul that is given to the human being. It is not part of the spirit of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The word he called it ruhi to honor it. Just like when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants to honor something, He says, Baytullah, the house of Allah. Doesn't mean that Allah lives there. Does not mean that Allah lives there. Naqatullahi mean the camel. Naqatullahi wa suqyaha, right? The camel of Allah. Doesn't mean Allah rides a camel, correct? So they try to get confusing meanings and deceive people by them. Ruhun minhu means a ruh, a spirit that was created by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Just like Allah says, وَسَخَّرَ لَكُم مَا فِي السَّمَاوَاتِ وَمَا فِي الْأَرْضِ جَمِيعًا مِنْهُ. Minhu as well. He says everything in the heavens and earth He made He made for your facilitated and subjugated to you. And He says جَمِيعًا مِنْهُ, it's all from Him. It doesn't mean that the heavens and earth are part of the essence of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He said the same word, جَمِيعًا مِنْهُ, the heavens and the earth are from Him. From Him doesn't mean they are part of His essence, does not mean they are part of His essence. Just like when He says وَرُوحٌ مِنْهُ for Isa ibn Maryam, doesn't mean it is something that is extracted from Allah, the physically part of Allah. You follow? It just means it's an attribution to show Allah's blessing. For instance, سَخَّرَ لَكُم مَا فِي الْأَرْضِ وَمَا فِي السَّمَاوَاتِ جَمِيعًا مِنْهُ, everything in the heavens and earth is from Him, means it's a blessing from Him. وَنَفَخْتُ فِيهِ مِنْ رُوحِي means I breathed or blew this spirit in him. Doesn't mean it is actually from the essence of Allah, but it is a spirit, a created spirit that Allah attributed to Him out of honor, to honor this spirit, because it's totally different than the spirit given to other living beings. The spirit of the human being is not like the spirit given, for instance, to the dog or to the donkey or any other animal, or to the insects. All these insects, they have some kind of spirit, but it's totally different. So this is what I wanted to make sure that people who want to go astray or lead people astray, they do لبس الحق ولا تلبسوا الحق بالباطل. Something that is truthful and it's a fact and it's mentioned in the Quran, but they misuse it and they confuse it so as to lead people astray. This is just an example of this matter. I'll stop here inshallah. Now, sorry, I went much longer than I expected.